Yo, what's good, everyone? It's your boy GD, the sports actor, and no Jalen Brunson, no problem. The New York Knicks dominate against the Indiana Pacers 136 to 110. And while there was a reason for concern in the first half of that game, because I don't know exactly what was going on with the lack of defense, the Indiana Pacers with their B squad, C squad looked like they were going to win against the New York Knicks there, at least for the first half. But that's how most games have looked, and the New York Knicks have turned around and they have a dominant third quarter, and then they seal it in the fourth. And that seems to be the narrative, that seems to be the story of how the games are going against certain teams in the NBA when it comes to the New York Knicks. But we're going to talk about it. Always good to see a win. Always good to see a dominant win, especially a win against a team like the Pacers, who have been a thorn in the side of the New York Knicks. Every time we play the Pacers, it's always competitive. It's always a game 7 for them. Neesmith goes off. McConnell is just constantly just a pest. But they don't have Tyrese Halliburton. They don't have Miles Turner anymore. So the Pacers are definitely going to have to do some work. It makes sense why they're tanking, because they do not look They don't shine the same way that they did. That gold is looking ever so yellow, and we're talking about dingy yellow. But hey, the New York Knicks, we're shining, baby, orange and blue skies. The final score of the game was 136 to 110. The Knicks take care of business, and honestly, this game wasn't even close. Wasn't even as close as the score suggests. Once the Knicks took over, they never looked back and handled Indiana from that point on. And as I said before, the third quarter is really where things started to churn up a little bit. The third quarter is really where the Knicks started to play some great defense. I don't know what was said at half, but whatever Mike Brown said definitely got these boys going. Speaking on Mike Brown as well, I do also want to point out one thing that I do love Mike Brown does. While we're continuing to figure out these rotations, while we're continuing to see some interesting rotations, one thing that Mike Brown does, and he's been doing well since the start of the season, is he doesn't take timeouts home. He sees this team in a rut. He sees this team starting off on the bad footing, and guess what he'll do? He'll call that timeout quick. There were times where Tom Thibodeau would just let the boys play and expect them to iron things out and to finish it off, and that's when you have a team that can run away 20, 25, 30 points, and you're just crawling from behind. But when it comes to Mike Brown, first quarter, first couple minutes, it doesn't matter. The timeouts are coming, and I do appreciate that. We've seen it within the last 4 games where we haven't had the strongest starts against the Utah Jazz, against the Pacers, and throughout this whole season, we've been using these timeouts when necessary. It's been getting the troops back together. It's been able to bring back some sense of syncopation when it comes to the players and when they start to fall off. But just wanted to touch on that point. I don't think that's talked about enough. Some other things that we can take away. Let's talk about our boy, Josh Hart, what a masterclass. And really, for those individuals who are, out there trying to say that, Josh Hart needs to move from the starting lineup, what do you got to say now? What do you got to say about that Hart? Mike and Ike Hart, what do you got to say about him now? Because the way that we're looking at it, Josh Hart, 33 points, 12 for 13 from the field, perfect from 3. That's not just a good game. That is elite efficiency. That is why Josh Hart is in the starting lineup, because of what he brings and provides. And granted, sometimes it can be inconsistent. Sometimes Josh Hart could be that guy who gets you 8 points, 7 points, turns the ball over a bunch. But when Josh Hart is going, man, that boy is cold. And as he said in the the post press conference that was on the floor with I can't remember the interviewer's name. I apologize about that. Knicks reporter had asked him what was going on tonight, where was this flow coming from, and he said that Jalen Brunson wasn't out there to hold the ball, to ball hog, and he had some opportunities. Funny joke. Love when the guys are in good spirits, going toe to toe with each other, making those slight remarks. But it's true. The ball moved around well from all Knicks players. I believe we had about 4 players that were all above 20 points, and we really had a lot of contribution from Josh Hart, OG, Mitchell Robinson. Mikal Bridges started to turn it up later in the half, and glad to see that. But Big Cat, the big bodega, just continuing to play flawless basketball. But it just goes to show you that when the Knicks role players really do step up, we're unstoppable. Those corner threes that Josh Hart was hitting, those elbow threes that Josh Hart was hitting at the perimeter were just gorgeous. Some of them were contested, some of them he just had that space. The spacing was just so good, and he was just so hot. By the time that the defender had time to try to close the gap, too late. Trey ball for Josh Hart, and that's how you get 33 points. So great outing there to see Josh Hart really shine, especially with all the doubt that was starting to circle around his name and his contribution and whether he should come off the bench. I really think that he quieted the haters. I do think that OG Anunoby is also someone who, in my personal opinion, as I've always said, OG can create his own shot. OG is a great shooter from the perimeter, and we saw all of that tonight. We didn't see OG dribbling, just trying to act like we're spamming the right stick right now on 2K. No, OG was just out there making decisions. I'm either going to shoot or I'm going to run this downhill like a freight train and take it through your chest and straight to the basket. And OG looked dominant tonight. And, big shout out to OG. Let's see what the stats were for OG and Anunoby really quickly, because I don't think that's something to be overlooked. As I've mentioned, OG personally to me is a player that is second when it comes to command after Jalen Brunson. I would like it to be Cat, and Cat is starting to look a lot more dominant. But when it comes to another guard player, someone who can do great things on both sides of the ball, OG Anunoby is that guy. He has a full game, a full package, and I just don't think that OG Anunoby is talked about enough. I think he's a pretty underrated player. OG Anunoby, 26 points tonight, 4 from 5 from the 3-point, 10 for 13 from the field, and 2 for 2 from free throws, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? OG Anunoby had a great game. Plus 25 when he's on the court, and OG was just smoking it tonight from the 3-point. I thought he had great shot selection, and as I said before, he just looked at the Indiana Pacers and said, "You guys tonight, you look like crispy McDonald's French fries," and he wasn't playing with this food. I'll tell you that right now. He was not playing with his food. So, it's really nice to see the depth that the New York Knicks also have on this team. As I said before, no Brunson, no problem. The Knicks were still able to drop 136 points, and that's everything that you need to know about this team's current depth. And this is why it was so important for me to, in past episodes, just beat on the idea that it was not necessary to make a move from the team that we have right now, especially after seeing what we were able to do in December and make that run and win the NBA Cup. You really saw a team that has skill set all across the board, especially when it comes together. And if it can do that on a night-to-night basis, this is a really strong championship contender team. And bringing in Giannis would have just broken a lot of that up, especially when it comes to our depth. We had talked about so much, especially last season and the season before that, in terms of how our main starters were just, running their knees into the ground because they never had an opportunity to breathe. They never had any load management. We see what's going on right now with Mitchell Robinson. Incredible job by the team. When it comes to load management and taking care of Mitch, and he looks good out there. He's able to keep up and run, and he looks, he's not winded while he's out there. He's playing strong through all the minutes, through every single second that he's out there on the floor. He's not lagging. He's not behind. He's running the court from length to length, and it looks really, really good to see Mitchell Robinson out there. But it also looks good that if Jalen Brunson wants to take a night off, you got guys like Jose Alvarado, who played very well in the absence of McBride. Deuce is still out currently. I would like to see Deuce back in before the end of the season. Of course, I do want him to be able to get some reps in, especially as our season gets a little bit easier here towards the end. But you had great guys who were able to fill in through Jose Alvarado, through Tyler Kolek, who isn't really a shooting machine, but Tyler Kolek is a great facilitator of the ball, assist machine. I'll give him that stamp. I'll give him that badge because he's great when it comes to distributing the ball and getting a lot of our guys in the right positions to be able to score. So it was great to see, our depth really show out, and see that it's not a one-man show when it comes to the New York Knicks, but it really is a team. And that is something that is part of the identity of this thing, is that the New York Knicks, although Jalen Brunson does stand a bit ahead, being the captain, and a lot of responsibilities lands on his shoulders, having the biggest contract and, having the biggest plate or responsibility on his plate, that's expected. Jalen Brunson, he expects that of himself, and that's what a leader is. But when it comes to being able to see what other leaders do you have on this team, who else is going to step up when Jalen Brunson isn't the answer, it's good to see that a lot of these guys are ready to put up double figures, 20-point games when it comes to basketball. And as I said before, it's not like it was the greatest team out there, but we've had wins like this against Denver. We've had wins like this against the Spurs, where a lot of the role players have blossomed and really shown out in games, and we need that to continue. Also, when it comes to the Knicks offense, I thought that the Knicks looked beautiful. The ball movement, the shot selection, the pacing, everything really clicked, and that's how you get multiple guys to really be in double figures, is by moving the ball as well as they did. Just to give everybody's points, we might as well. OG 26, Karl Anthony Towns 22, Josh Hart 33, Mikal Bridges 10, Jose Alvarado 16, and then we have Jeremy Shohan 2, Pacome 2, Mitchell Robinson 8 points. You love to see that. Jordan Clarkson 10 points, Shamet 2, McCullough 2, Tyler Kolek 3. So everybody was able to get something on the board. And some of the other guys were able to get a lot more, and that's what you need. Super excited about that, and really love to see that, especially as we start to wind down towards the end of this season. Being able to see the Knicks really have a dominant second half, even when Indiana was shooting early, the Knicks really stayed composed. They didn't let the game get away from them. Even when they've been down in other games, down by 21 or down by 18, 15, you still see the same composure. This team knows that they're in it until the very end, and that's very exciting to see. Although you don't want to always be in that position, playing from behind, I do wish and hope that the New York Knicks continue to play stronger, especially in the first quarter, and really do go out there and dominate. But if we're going to win by coming from behind and have all these comeback wins, I also don't mind that too. It's really nice to be able to rub that in and, showcase a skill set and let everybody know that we play 4 quarters out here, and you really got to tie us up for 4 quarters or we're going to be coming back in the fourth quarter. So dominant second half coming from the New York Knicks. The defense tightened up, the offense flowed, and the game was over before the fourth quarter even ended. And the biggest takeaways from me is that the New York Knicks aren't just dependent on Jalen Brunson. What's really going on with this team is that they're finding a lot of guys who are starting to peak and really just branch out. And that's sometimes hard to manage. That's sometimes hard to juggle. You got Jalen Brunson, you have Cat, you have OG. Those 3 guys are really consistent, in my personal opinion, when they're on the floor. And they really play hot. You got guys starting to come around when it comes to Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Mo Diawara, Mitchell Robinson, and we're definitely going to need just those 4 guys on their own are great contributors and could really help. And then you have some of the other guys who we love to see out there: Jose Alvarado, Jeremy Shohan, Tyler Kolek, some of these guys to really carry the back end. Jordan Clarkson, and it's a really complete team, and this is really what a contending team really looks like, and we've never had this much depth. I feel like I don't think we've ever had this much talent at all positions. And this New York Knicks team is dangerous. But yeah, folks, that's it. I know I went a little bit over on a game that really wasn't much, since there wasn't really any star magic coming from the Pacers side, but it's always good to see a good Knicks win at home, and you can never talk too much about that. But let me know what you think. Was this the Knicks at their best? Were they flowing their best, playing some of their best basketball, or are the Pacers just a bad team? So drop your thoughts, your likes, subscribe. I'll make sure to catch you guys on the next one. The New York Knicks, I believe, as I said before, have a very easy schedule. Their next one is on Friday. The next Knicks game is on Friday. Let me get the schedule. Don't want to misrepresent. You want to make sure. Okay. The next one is on Friday against baby brother Brooklyn Nets, 4:30. That's an easy one. It's a walk in the park. If Jalen Brunson needs to take a rest, this would be the game to do so again. Kick your feet up, Cap. It was just St. Patty's. You're chilling. If you need to take a rest, go ahead and take a rest. And for those of you who were out there for St. Patty's yesterday, hope none of you guys got crazy. I saw some videos out there, and everybody needs to learn how to handle their liquor better. That's all I got to say on that. But hey, festivities, holidays, New York Knicks wins. That's what you live for. I appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, drop your thoughts. And if you stayed this far, as always, let's go Knicks. Peace.